And ladies and gentlemen, we are back for the second bout of the evening. Coming out first, the visitor from Russia, Daniil Solovyov. I think I'm doing that right. What do you think, Matt Reed?
Solovyov, I think, is probably about right, so I think that's pretty much spot on. He's a tall fighter, a very tall fighter.
So, Daniil is well-versed in the chess boxing world with 14 bouts, chess boxing specific, and over 150 amateur boxing bouts. Now, that may sound like a lot, but his opponent, about to walk out, has even more, coming in with 200 amateur boxing bouts of experience and a 5-time national champion boxer in Finland. We have, in the black corner, coming out in just a moment, Alexander Vasu, another hometown hero. He is coming out with a cape and a crown. The crowd here is definitely voicing their support for him as he makes his way to the ring. And here he comes. Now, right off the bat, we can see a pretty marked size discrepancy here. Do you see that too, Matt?
Yeah, we're looking at about maybe a foot in height difference almost. This is a big height disparity. We've got a little bit more of a showman from the Finn in that he has the cape, he has the crown. He is definitely positioning himself as the king of this bout, but whether that's going to be the case, he's slightly more experienced with 200 amateur boxing fights, but I believe that this is his first or second chess boxing fight. I mean,
that's right. So relatively new to the chess boxing world, and he's going to have his hands full with Daniil, who also has a pretty sizable chess advantage. So let's see if the slight boxing advantage for Alexander pays off and keeps Daniil from getting an advantage on the board. Now, remember, the first round is on the chess board, so Danny is going to be able to at least set the tone and start off with where his advantage lies in this matchup. Also, a quick note, currently, Danny is wearing a shirt with the face of the chess boxing founder, Jeppe Rumbing, on the face of the shirt. And a beautiful tribute was just made in the live event to Jeppe, who passed away last year in May. So rest in peace and sending. We know he's here with us in spirit, carrying on the sport and the tradition that he started. But without further ado, the chess action is underway. We had a d4 opening, and it looks like the response was d5. Now, do you play this?
This is what I regard as a proper chess opening, and I don't believe in proper chess openings. I believe in the unorthodox. I believe that chess boxing is about unorthodox, unpredictability, and in speed chess, you don't want people to be comfortable. You want them to be as uncomfortable as possible. So I like to specialize in playing weird moves. I pioneer the first move of b4. I play b4 every time I'm white in chess boxing. But what we're seeing here is the Queen's Gambit, the same as the Netflix show, where white starts off playing his pawn forward to d4, black replies with d5, and then white plays c4 to challenge that pawn. It's known as a slightly quieter build-up, a slightly more positional chess than you would normally see with a king's pawn opening, which is 1e4. So I think already we're seeing that both of these fighters are showing a little bit more chess experience. They're being a little bit more cagey. This is more like in a boxing fight where it's the battle of the jab. Nobody's trying for a knockout blow here. They're just positioning. You know, the footwork's coming in. They're trying to control the center. They just want to get their pieces to the right positions. So you want to see both players develop all of their pieces quite quickly, try and get castled, and then they'll try and look to increase their space advantage, to try and create some space to maneuver. And at that point, you can start looking at opponents' weaknesses. Okay, so we've had a slight change here. Black has gone a pawn up, which is, it's not necessarily a full pawn because white can play e4 and now attack the pawn that's just been taken with the white bishop. It's not going to be possible really for him to defend it. He could try something like knight a5, but then he's putting a knight on the side of the board. So realistically, I'm expecting white to recapture now with bishop takes c4 to bring this back equal. And now black can play knight takes e4 and grab the e-pawn because that's actually... oh no, sorry, that's not pinned. The bishop on d2 would stop that. So it's pretty much an even game. We're nearly at the end of the first chess round. We've got about 40 seconds left. No real advantage at the moment, so we're really looking forward to seeing what happens in the first boxing.
Yeah, well said, Matt. And if there is an advantage, if we had to pick someone, I'd say White has one more piece developed, but has not castled yet. White is controlling the center more, which is that Queen's Gambit. Kind of the idea of it is to trade one of the outside pawns for one of the central pawns, and a slight time advantage. So Danny is up about 2 minutes on the clock, which is sizable for the first round, which just came to an end with that bell. Now the headphones come off and the gloves come on as the chessboard makes its way out of the ring, and we get to see, I think, what everyone in this room and everyone on the stream is excited about, which is two of the most seasoned boxers in this event about to go at it. So here we go, Matt. Any predictions on how the boxing may go?
I actually fight at this weight category, so I'm a middleweight boxer, 75 kilos, and I'm very much built like Daniil. So I'm tall, I'm streaky, I'm very thin. So I don't think there's much of a basis on this, but I hope that Daniil uses his jab, controls the center, and uses that long reach advantage. The long levers, they can really help keep the smaller guy away. So that's what I want to see, and I kind of hope that's what's going to happen, because that's exactly what I would try. But very fit fighters, very excited to see what's going to happen.
And to Matt Reed's point, this will be a matchup between an outside fighter and an inside fighter, especially with both of them having a lot of experience. So we will look to see if Daniil is able to establish his jab and maintain both the reach advantage and his distance to stay away from the dangerous weapons that Alex no doubt has. So here we go. Alex coming straight in, being aggressive and starting to get a sense for Danny's jab. A lot of those jabs missing. Great head movement on display by Alex. Getting in tight, bobbing, weaving, just getting a sense for how quick that jab is, how far it can go. Both fighters just feeling each other out, much like the chess openings, to Matt Reed's point earlier. A great cross right over the top, and actually just now realizing that Alex is fighting out of the southpaw stance, meaning he is a left-hand dominant fighter with his right hand forward. This is a regular in boxing and makes for a really interesting matchup between a regular boxer and a southpaw, especially for what the punch that just landed, which is a straight cross. So the power hand coming straight down the middle is the punch to watch. Another thing, another great exchange there. Both fighters having landed serious power punches so far in this match. And Alex shifting back to a regular stance. So we might be seeing a switch fighter here. Another great slip and roll underneath two punches, and a cross up top lands just above the ear of Danny. Danny letting Alex come inside his range and not continuing to circle or keep his distance. So far an action-packed round. Alex starting off just missing punches and then starting to establish his presence with some counters. Another straight shot out of the southpaw stance. Alex switched back. And a hook followed by a cross. Both land for Alex, who seems to have the slight advantage so far in this first round. So far we've seen Danny only stay in the regular stance, which is typically the recommended way to box, is learning one way of boxing inside out rather than trying to switch and divide your time and your repetitions between two different stances. Danny now fighting with his lead hand down, maybe baiting shots over the top, which Alex threw and landed. So maybe he'll rethink fighting with that lead hand down. But that's also my preferred way of fighting. The right hand stays high, protecting the chin, and able to check any hooks that come in with the left hand coming down and oftentimes being out of sight. And one of the most famous people to fight in that stance, called the Philly Shell, is Floyd Mayweather, defensive specialist. You really have to be both quick, technical, and experienced in order to pull that off. Danny seems to be moving just a little bit slower now, and we're getting close to the end of the round. Matt, any words?
I'm going to defer to Matt on his boxing analysis, but I think we saw a very interesting first round there of the boxing.
So in that first round, definitely the more clean and powerful punches landed going to Alex. So if not by a large amount, but if we were to pick up from our vantage point who won that round, it would likely be Alex in the black corner from Finland. Not to say that Danny didn't also land good punches, and no doubt both fighters have their heart rate up and have a challenge as they make their way back to the chessboard. Now, Matt, do you do any certain rituals or techniques or types of breathing in between rounds in order to win that time in between rounds?
I really wish I could tell you that I do, but you mentioned a type of yoga breathing earlier. I'd never even heard of that. No, I use the time. We do things slightly differently in the UK in that we are able to see, as the fighters, the chess position. So I use my 1 minute rest to look at my chess position on the board, and I try and evaluate a strategy, come up with a plan, so I use less time in the chess. The less time I use in the chess, the less time I have to spend in the boxing ring. And what we didn't say earlier is that if you notice that the fighters are wearing headphones, those are not just sound cancelling, they're actually having something called Rammstein. I believe it's a German industrial metal band playing a very, very angry song, I believe. Probably against the English, but I have no idea what the lyrics are about, but they seem very angry about something. I put the headphones on earlier. I can tell you that chess is difficult when there's background noise. When you've got a German industrial metal band going hell for leather in your ear, concentration is at a premium. So those that can basically blot out what I regard as a cacophony of noise will be much better. So at the moment, Black has got a slight time disadvantage. He's 2.5 minutes down, but the one thing I would have said about the first fight was that I think Otto moved far too quickly. At the end of the day, he lost, and he lost quite quickly in the chess. If he'd just played half the speed, he would have had twice the number of boxing rounds. And as we saw in the last boxing fight, it was certainly a live bout. I definitely feel that in this fight, Alexander's definitely doing the right thing by slowing down. The weaker player should never play quickly because he doesn't have the experience, he doesn't have the pattern recognition. In terms of position here, you have to favour white. He has, as Matt's pointed out earlier, the two dominant centre pawns, the well-developed knight, the black knight on a5. It's not a good piece. A knight on the edge of the board can only control or move to 4 squares, whereas in the centre of the board it can move to 8. So we say in British chess boxing we have a little mantra: a knight on the rim is dim. And I would definitely say to Black, get that knight relocated, either by playing b6 and then into b7 and then relocate to c5. But at the moment, Black has a worry that at the moment his black bishop on b4 is undefended, so he has to sort that out first. But there's a lot going on at this position at the moment, so probably the right thing that Alex is doing is slowing down. Alexander is playing nice and slow. There is no real need, while the position is level, to use up all of your time. To move quickly to keep your time. As long as you keep 3 minutes on the clock, I think you'll be fine. So I'm going to pass myself back over to Matt to see if he's got any insights on the position, because to be honest, I've just been talking and not actually concentrating on what's going on.
It's easy to do that. And one thing that I notice is it's going to be difficult for Black to escape out of this position without losing a piece. There's a couple things in play. So one, the doubled up bishop, the white square bishop, has the power of the queen behind it. So it's pointing right at that light square bishop for Black, which currently has 2 defenders. But with the queen challenging both the black square bishop and the knight, and the queen having to double defend both bishops, there seems to be a way to go up, which Alex seemed to be studying, which is why he's lower on time. And also, part of the reason he's probably taking a lot of time is he knows that he won that last boxing round. And the more time that he uses on his chess clock means the more times he gets in the boxing ring, which is exactly what we're in store for. So strategically, probably a great move, eating up a lot of that clock in that round to get another boxing round to hopefully either knock out or hurt Danny, to not just hurt him in the boxing ring but also on the board. So the fighters now are getting their gloves back on. The breath that I used to calm down for chess would not be too helpful right now, but the opposite breath, a breath called Kapalabhati or fire breathing, is what I use to prime for a boxing round, and it is rapid hyperventilations, forcing air out through the nose, and then deep inhale through the nose, very similar to Wim Hof style breathing. If you know who Wim Hof is, he is well known for long breath holds and dealing with very cold temperatures, both in water and in Arctic environments. And that is the breath he uses to maintain body heat, to over-oxygenate his bloodstream and his brain to be able to both survive and perform at a high level. And speaking of performing at high levels, we're back in the boxing room with two extremely good fighters. And we're about 15 seconds into this round. The only action so far we've seen is from Danny, very similar to the last boxing round where Alex has his guard up, he's working his way inside, he's getting a sense, he's making Danny feel very comfortable, having not thrown any punches yet, and to that effect, Danny's guard is down. A nice 2 over the top lands for Danny. Alex tries to throw a jab and is met with a jab coming right back at him. Now Danny is showing some head movement of his own, missing 2 shots and having 1 land. Danny fighting with his guard down, circling outside, maybe feeling a little bit more comfortable, and maybe see something this round that he didn't see in the first round that seems to have Alex on his back, on his heels. Danny finding success with the right uppercut in this round. His jabs draw up the guard of Alex, and the uppercut has landed 2, maybe 3 times, with the third time being a grazing blow. Coming out of the grapple there, a big hook goes just over the head of Alex. A good uppercut slip cross by Danny. 2 shots miss, 2 land. Oh, and a great pivot outside of the shot by Alex, keeping Danny off balance and then countering while he was up against the ropes. I'm noticing a rhythm with Danny. He'll take a few steps with guard down, plant his feet, bring his guard back up, and then throw something. I think Alex is seeing the same thing. He keeps his guard up as Danny moves, and then makes a move to land a punch, just like that one that just landed from the southpaw stance, a left cross over the top. A great 1-2 lands for Danny. Jab cross right through the guard of Alex, which shifts him to change his stance back to a regular stance. Lead uppercut only finds the guard of Alex. Alex responds with 2 shots, both finding air. Bit of grapple. Danny was weighing down on top of Alex, something that taller fighters often do to sap the energy of the shorter fighter. Pulling down on the neck, both wears out the neck and the back, both important for absorbing shots. So it's a little bit dirty, but it's also not something that is flagrant. And there we go, end of the boxing round. I think I might have talked that whole round. So Matt, what if anything did you gather from that boxing round, and would you call it one way or the other for black or white?
It's a tough one to call. I think, and then Daniil's got the handle on this. I mean, I might be slightly biased being the taller fighter, but I like the way he's getting behind the jab. He's prepared to throw that lead uppercut or rear uppercut if Alexander comes in quite aggressively. I think he had the handle on it. I think he knows with the time advantage that as long as he stays on his feet in the boxing, at the moment, the chess is going in his favour. I'd like to see in this round Alexander just speeding up a little bit. He can't slow down as much as he did in the last round. It was fine the last round, but we're only about 20 moves into a game that could go at least 60 moves. That's another 40 moves, and yet he's already used over half of his time. So I think, get used to that Rammstein, because they've only got 1 track on this playlist. It's a 1-track playlist, so get used to it. He's got 4 minutes. I'd like to see him only use less than 2 in this round. But let's see how we get on.
And to that point, Danny has only used less than a minute, 51 seconds of his time to get this position, which, in my opinion, is an advantageous position. a really good move by Alex here, using his pawn to break up some of the aggression from white. It'll repel the bishop back, and instead offering or going for a trade. So the white pawn is now challenging the queen, which is which black must respond to. Another piece here is
sorry for interrupting, Matt, but I think that white's now got a sizable advantage. What's going to happen here is that when black has to deal with the pawn that's attacking his queen on f6, then all of a sudden white can just move that bishop that's on b5, and you count up those minor pieces. White will still have 2 bishops and 2 knights, and black's lost one of his knights. So actually what I think we're seeing here is white has a sizable advantage. He just has to spot it. And I don't think, I mean, he's only used a minute and a second, so I think we have a clear disparity in chess playing ability, which was echoed by the 500 points that we're being told is the difference in chess rating. So black's found that the correct move was basically protecting his queen, but I'm sure white's going to find bishop c4, bishop d3, bishop e2, or even better, just take on b4, and then when you take on b5, that looks like an equal trade. You can then take on a5 and take the black knight. So basically, white's managing to get a huge amount of material off this round while still preserving a huge time advantage. I think we're seeing some very savvy play from the Russian. If I was black, I think you've just got to hunker down, survive this round, and then literally bet it all on the next round. Put it all on black and basically just go for it. Go for the knockout and basically just die on your sword. Just go, and if you get knocked out because you were a bit cavalier, that's what I do. I don't know what Matt's take on this is.
Yeah, well said. So I think Alex is making the right decision here, using a lot of his time to consider their position and maximizing his time in the ring. Now, that being said, Alex had a clear advantage in the first boxing round, but I would also give the second boxing round to Danny. So this is an interesting position to be in, and I would favor white's position being much stronger on the board and having the momentum of winning the last boxing round. So here we've had the bishop retaken. So to Matt's point, big advantage for white so far, and there we go. We have the bell. It was kind of a soft bell, so the players were a little bit confused, but headphones come off, game freezes, and much to the crowd's delight, we get to see another boxing round between these two fabulous fighters, and we'll see if we get to enjoy the Alex from round 1 of boxing or round 2 of boxing. Let's see if he's able to bring back the same vigor and find the same big shots landed from the first round to give him a chance of winning this fight, because I think it's all but lost on the chessboard. What do you think, Matt?
Yeah, I think with Alexander only having a minute and a half left, we are not going to see a full chess round next round, unless he plays incredibly quickly and even slow. I think if he does that, Daniil will just play just as quickly and force his time down. That's normally what the most experienced player would do. So if I was Alexander, I'd literally bet it all on this round. You have no other opportunity other than the knockout. So dig deep, guard up, get underneath that jab, and try and throw to the body in the first minute and go for the knockout in the next 2.
And there's the first bell. Boxing is underway. Alex starting much of the same way he did the last 2 rounds. Guard up, gauging that jab. One sneaks through there, and you see him kind of reset, bounce a little bit, bring the guard back up, come back. It looks like Danny is feeling a lot more comfortable. His right hand is coming down. He's baiting shots. He's landing the jab almost at will. You know, certain ones go into the guard, but other ones are sneaking pretty quick, even with the guard up. Multiple uppercuts. Those first 2 landing. Danny finding a lot of success with that uppercut, and especially against a shorter fighter. That is one of your best friends. When they start coming in close, bobbing and weaving, uppercut can sometimes land a really devastating hit, but almost always at least create space to back up, to circle, to get away from dangerous counters off of those bobs and weaves. Another jab sneaks through, landing on the chest, and then Danny slipping underneath a right hook from Alex. I'm curious why Alex doesn't switch back to that southpaw stance. It seems like he was in it for about half of that first round and finding a lot of success, but he's stuck in regular. Good 2 over the top, though. Just as I say that, Alex lands one and then grapples up. I wouldn't spend too much time grappling if I was Alex, though. He needs to be landing shots, trying to wear out Danny so that if a big shot lands, it might put him down and down for the count at that. And there we go. A big slow shot from Danny opens up opportunity for Alex to counter with 2 big shots, both landing. I love that move. I do it myself often with Danny backing up like he's retreating, planting that back foot and throwing a quick 2 over the top. Just catching the top of his forehead, not doing much damage, but keeping your opponent on your toes. You aren't always doing the same thing. You're switching it up. You're being hard to predict, hard to think moves ahead. Big shots landed by Alex as he backs him into the white corner. So Alex showing some signs of life, showing some good vigor, some good strength, landing 2 shots on Danny, who's back in a comfortable position with his hands down. Pretty cavalier, especially being up on the board. I'd be protecting myself. I would not want to be baiting any of those big shots from Alex. Clearly a strong fighter. Oh, trading hooks, and I think the one that got the better of that hook exchange was Alex. Switching back to the southpaw stance, landing a big right hand right on the temple of Danny. Another good plant and straight right hand lands right in between the guard of Alex. And we have a 30-second warning coming up, 30 seconds to go. Oh, big shot, lands right on the chin of Danny. Lights a fire on him, and boom, there we go. End of the boxing round. Wow, that was a pretty even round. Who would you give it to if you had to pick?
I liked a lot of the aggression that Alex was showing, but I don't think Daniil was ever in trouble. I think he used his jab nicely, threw the uppercuts when he needed to, and stayed out of trouble. I maybe would have given that, I don't know if it's a 10 must score system for this, but I would probably say that was an even round. It's going to be very difficult to know what to tell Alexander to do here. I think simply just play as quick as possible, hope to create some confusion, some tactical issues on the centre of the board. Hopefully that will slow down Daniil, but the problem is that he's giving away about 500 points in rating strength. This is a big disparity, and it's very hard to confuse the more experienced person. You're more likely to confuse yourself. So I guess it's just the roll of the dice here. Play some quick moves, hope that they're good moves, and just hope that over the 3 minutes, you can use a minute and a half, he can use a minute and a half, and you take a 1 second amount of time remaining on your clock into a final boxing round. But I think it's very unlikely we will see the finish in the next round.
Quite the call from Matt Reed, and I have to agree. If I'm sitting in Danny's shoes, I'm moving very quickly, and I'm making aggressive moves that make my opponent think. With 1 minute and 15 seconds left, if you're getting attacked, especially from multiple pieces, and you have to consider all that while worrying about time, you're in a bad place. It's like you're having to endure a flurry in the boxing ring. There's punches coming from everywhere. You're trying to guard yourself. You're trying to circle out, and that can be draining, both from an energy standpoint in the ring and from a time standpoint on the board. So now under a minute is the black pieces. Alex still thinking about this position, trying to find some sort of way to claw his way back. And right now his queen is being challenged by that white pawn on e5. He moves it to e6, right in front of the pawn, prohibiting it from advancing and also protecting his light square bishop. So here, as this chess game comes to a close, looks like it's white to move, who castles, protecting his king. We'll let Matt Reed close out the commentary for the chess side here. What do you see?
I don't see a lot here other than the white win. I think this is the end for the finish, or the finish is at the end. I don't know which way on as a play on words, but wow, 30 seconds left. He needs to be moving quicker. But it's an experience thing. When you're new or newer to the game, it's very hard. You don't have the pattern recognition that the more experienced player has. You can't just go onto autopilot. There's no such thing of autopilot for weaker chess players. So hard to know. I mean, that was a good quick move, gives him something to think about, but even still, Daniil took maybe 2 seconds to realise that what he needed to do, and now it's straight back over. You know, Black's got his queen in trouble. Maybe even Alexander hasn't even seen that. You might even find that Black's not even going to notice that his queen's been attacked. He did. So the queen's gone back, and now all of a sudden checkmate. Wow. I didn't think it was going to finish before the end of the chess round like that, but actually we had a checkmate. So we have a winner. We have Daniil from Russia has put the nail in the coffin for the younger Alexander, and I'm going to pass you back over to Matt.
You know, a win is a win any way it comes. But I have to say, I much prefer a decisive win like a checkmate over time running out. So I'm glad that Danny found that winning position. And what a beautiful combination it was. He advanced his knight to challenge the queen, the most powerful piece on the board. And it's easy to get lost in that challenge and miss what is really at stake, which is the backdoor to the king. That H7 pawn that was just sitting there unprotected and right next to the king. So moving in for the kill was the white queen, and we're about to see Danny's hand raised. Another win for the white corner, which is the foreigner corner. So that is one win for the Netherlands, one win for Russia, and 0 wins so far for the hosting country, Finland. But what a brilliant display of boxing in those 3 rounds, back and forth, both boxers winning at least one round, with one being pretty even, almost a draw, if we were to call it. So great display. The crowd showing a lot of support. Rounds of applause for both fighters for the display of brain and brawn that was just in the ring. And now Alex is addressing the crowd in finish.